All right, thank you, Chris. All right, so let's get into things here. We have quite a bit of material to cover today, and so I'm going to try to strike the right balance of pacing the conversation here so that we get through all this material, but not going through it too quickly so that anything important is missed. So we're going to try to strike a balance as well of giving you concepts and kind of direction for things that we saw at Think, as well as places where you can kind of jump in and get started yourself, get your hands dirty, and start utilizing some of this technology. So to start things off, let's talk about embedding dashboards into your own environment. So IBM has introduced something called IBM Dynamic Dashboard Embedded. So what this is, it provides developers the ability to embed a visualization platform directly into their application. So any kind of web application, essentially, you can take dashboard functionality and you can plug it right in. So as a developer, there's the flexibility so you can define the user workflow and you can control the options available to the users. So they're not having to jump over to a separate application, interrupt their workflow in your application, but they can stay within the context of what they're already doing, and you can take advantage of these dashboarding capabilities. So, and you actually have quite a bit of flexibility here. So developers, they can choose to present either something that's already been authored, so a dashboard's already been created and they can present that in an interactive manner, or they can actually give the kind of free form exploration interactive capabilities that you get if you're starting from scratch and you're creating a new dashboard in Cognos today. Or you can do kind of a mesh of functionality and provide something in between. You have a significantly granular level of control. So the idea here is that you're empowering users greatly, not just when they're in Cognos, but even outside of it in some other application to turn data into insights and those insights into action. So why did they go this route? Why did they introduce this? So they recognized a few client needs. Clients needed the ability to visualize the growing amount of data. Obviously, this is a pretty common concern across all kinds of organizations. And they needed the ability to place the visualizations where required, not necessarily requiring those users to go into some kind of separate tool. Obviously, for any organization, for every employee working there, allowing them to work as efficiently as possible is going to maximize ROI for that business. And then this needed to be a cost-effective model. There couldn't be kind of massive licensing concerns that would go along with embedding something into a web application, which obviously could become a concern pretty quickly. So what they came up with is this easy-to-use embeddable visualization capability based on REST APIs that's going to allow business users to very quickly create something that's compelling and interactive and include it in their existing web applications. So what you get with this, you get a live connection to underlying data, and you get the smart creation of visualization. So what does that mean? So if you've used Cognos dashboarding, then this is kind of going to make sense. If you haven't, or if you haven't used a similar type of tool, it might not be as obvious. But really what it means is that you have a field from your data, and once you drag it onto your canvas to start creating something, you can do just that. You could take a field called revenue and you can drag it on, and the tool is going to apply some intelligence to go ahead and create a visual for you. It's going to try to give you something that makes sense for the type of data that you dragged on. So if you drag on some kind of classification, like department, it might start out with just a list of items, of departments. Whereas if you drag a number on, it would maybe summarize that number. And then if you drug the two on together, it would summarize that number by department. So you're going to get that here when you embed it. So it truly is interactive. And the exploration is interactive as well. So even once you have that data on, you can filter it, pretty self-explanatory, or you can use navigation paths, which are a powerful component that's been introduced fairly recently into the Cognos platform, which is kind of a drill up or drill down capability, although it really goes even beyond that because you don't have to just stick to a strict hierarchy, but you can kind of jump around a little bit more, which is often the way it's necessary to explore data in the real world. And then you can embed these dashboards wherever the user is, whatever application they're in, without losing that interactivity. So how can you actually start getting at this stuff? Like I said, we want to give you some places to jump in. Well, the IBM development team's been working closely with the IBM data science experience, which has recently kind of been marketed as IBM Watson Studio. So you can actually go in there now if you already have an account, or if you don't, you can create one pretty easily. And you can get started for free, and you can actually kind of see what it looks like to embed the dashboard tool within that data science experience or the IBM Watson Studio context. What they're also working on rolling out, it's in beta right now, is putting this on Bluemix, which is now being called the IBM Cloud. And so that's really going to give you the full capability to embed in any type of application. So let's just look at a few screens of what this kind of actually looks like. So it's not unfamiliar if you want to go in and start doing it yourself. So this is in that IBM cloud that I mentioned, which used to be called Bluemix. And so you have an option now in the catalog for the dynamic dashboard embedded. And again, this is in beta form, but it's already out there today. So if you choose that one, you're going to see kind of a description of what it is, and it will allow you to go ahead and get started with it. And then, so this gives you kind of a picture of what this could look like. Now, this is in that IBM Watson Studio, but you kind of see what might be familiar to you if you've used Cognos Analytics, is what looks very much like dashboarding, but it's obviously embedded within a separate tool. So you have all the common elements that would be there within your IBM Watson Studio, but then you have that dashboarding functionality built in as well. And obviously, from this screenshot, you can see that you could get started from scratch. It's not just the inclusion of an already created dashboard, but you could actually choose a data source and start creating your own analysis. And then here's a picture of something just a little bit more completed, being embedded as well. This is, I think, a screenshot. It's just a little bit older, so it still has the data science experience branding. But again, you have a dashboard that's been created, and then you can add to it there with your data on the left, or you could do that kind of interactive analysis that we talked about, filtering it, drilling into it, et cetera. So there's really 4 basic steps to get started with this. So first you create an IBM Cloud account, and then you provision a dynamic dashboard embedded service instance. And this is done through a graphical interface on the IBM website. This isn't command line stuff to do this provisioning. So, and then you create a service credential to access that API, and then you create a dynamic dashboard session from the web service application. And then finally, you're just going to utilize the JavaScript API that's provided, so that you can actually embed it into your web client application. And again, you can actually get started with this today because it is in beta. And given that it's in beta, it's free at the moment. So it's a great time to give it a shot, get started with it. So just a few specifics about what is supported and what's not supported. So from a data source perspective, you can tie into CSVs, or DB2 on the cloud, or any data sources from Cognos Analytics. And you're going to get a live connection to the underlying data. So it's not just grabbing a snapshot, it's actually a live connection to your data source. A few things that are not supported. So you don't have the reporting and modeling capabilities from Cognos. So again, if you're familiar, reporting means kind of the full-fledged professional authoring type of capability. That's not here. This is just dashboards. And you don't have the ability to create a data module or a package or anything like that in an embedded sense. Of course, users can go into Cognos and do that, and it can work with these embedded pieces, but the embedding is strictly the dashboarding. You don't have custom widgets, so that means you can't include like an extra set of shapes, essentially, and you don't have pinned objects. So pinned objects are those that you want to reuse later or reuse elsewhere. That's not included here. And then finally, intent-based authoring, that's the natural language where you can say, show me revenue by department, and you can actually type that in. That's not included in the embedded dashboard functionality. But as a summary, essentially everything else is there. And this gives you the capability to embed a very powerful tool directly into an application that users maybe already are using or that you're rolling out in your organization. You have a very granular level of control over the experience, the workflow, and the options that are available to users, so you can tailor it to their experience. And you can get started with it today. You can start test driving it for free. Take a look at it either in IBM Watson Studio or through IBM Cloud.
All right, thanks so much, Mike. So I had warned you guys at the beginning that we were going to try to keep this